Hi guys. How are y'all doing? Happy almost New Year. Let me turn the music off. Hi guys. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. Tell me about y'all's Christmas. Well, I send an email to let folks know that I am live. And I'll check the chat box. So I'm gonna send this email real quick just to let folks know that I am on here live. And we're going to get into some really important things. If you guys caught the Christmas office party, I said that I had a lot to talk to y'all about, and I do. And I'm like, let's do it now. Before we go into the new year, we're going to talk about some things. We're going to get into some things today. So I'm sending this email right quick. And then we're going to chat. And there's a lot to chat about because there are a lot of things going on in the world right now. So I'm sending this email here. It is what it is. Let me backspace that. There we go. And I think that's the right link. Let me double check. And then we're going to talk. Okay, there we go. I think that's the right one. If it's not, then oh well. I'm sending the email right now. Okay, and then I'm going to see what y'all are saying. All right, email's out. Let's look at the chat. Okay, so Mr. Sab, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Sorry if I messed up your name. Hi, Miriam. Hi, Zenobia. Star Diva 41. You guys, it is almost the new year. Can you believe it? Okay, can you believe it's almost 2025? Like, what? Where did time go? Okay, that's what I need to know. Where did time go? It's crazy. Did you guys do like a big to-do for Christmas, or did you keep it low key? Were you at the house just sort of chilling, or did you make your rounds to everybody's house and visit and all of that good stuff? Or we personally kept it low key. We did a whole lot of making our rounds for Thanksgiving, and I told my mom and my dad, I said, look, I love y'all. And I love the family, but it is hard traveling with a 3-year-old and an infant. So we're going to do the thing on Thanksgiving, but we're going to keep it low key on Christmas. And that actually worked out kind of well because, there's always stuff going around, illnesses and whatnot. I was a little bit under the weather on Christmas, but I wasn't, bedridden or anything. I've been so sick over the last 2 years during the winter seasons that, like, if I'm not bedridden, I'm good. Give me some, and I'm going to keep it pushing. But the next day, my husband, he could not get out the bed. Like, whatever I had, he got it times 10. It was like a stomach thing. He couldn't keep anything down. His back hurt really bad. And I was thinking maybe I may have had the flu because my back was hurting a little bit too. But then, it wasn't so bad that I couldn't move. But for him, like, he was kind of laid out that day. And I had seen on Facebook someone sharing a post about there's some new thing going around. And I'm not trying to be cynical, but every symptom they described, I'm like, that sounds like the old thing. Your head hurts, your body hurts, you got chills, you're coughing, you got a stuffy nose. I'm like, that sounds like all the other things. So I really don't know. But even my mom caught something. My dad, he had something going on too. So I know it's a lot going on, like with it being wintertime. If you got littles or you got kids in school, period, whether they're teens and whatnot, everyone's just always around folks bringing, all the things around. So it's the wintertime is tough for everybody. So yes, praying for good health, praying for everybody to have good health. So, I can't complain. I got up this morning. I'm not bedridden. And trust me, I know what that's like because it was this time 2 years ago, 2022 going into 2023, I had a cough and I had just been coming off of having COVID, and my cough was still lingering. And so I thought I was on the straight and narrow. But New Year's Day, I spent sick in the bed with like an upper respiratory infection. That was 2 New Year's Eves ago. So I know, you know, this time of year, it's just notorious for everybody catching something. So y'all, you know, take your zinc, your vitamin C, whatever you need to take, because it's rough out here. It's rough out here. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys did have a good Christmas. And like I said, I can't complain. I had a good Christmas too. You know, I saw it, you know, and we're getting ready to go into the new year. So I said, let's get on here and chat, because I don't want to go into the new year talking about last year's stuff. Like, yeah, this stuff is still going to be like a topic and whatnot. But I did tell y'all that we needed to talk. And I said, you know what? Let's talk right now before we go into the new year. So I titled this live chat, The State of Remote Work in 2025, because there's a lot of folks, you know, talking about, you know, Elon Musk and them and what they got going on. And I've even gotten questions on my videos in the last month or so about, you know, what do I think is going to happen with remote work, and, you know, all the sort of efforts for people to go back to the office. And, you know, I just thought, well, let's talk about it. You know, let's chat, because this is a layered onion. You know, it's a layered onion. And I think we, you know, deserve to peel back a little bit of those layers and figure out what's going on. So let's see what y'all are saying in the chat. Quiet Christmas, family too far away. You know, it's like that sometimes, you know. Sometimes we need a quiet Christmas. And even when I try to make things quiet, you know, when you have little kids, ain't nothing quiet. Looking forward to 2025 report. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. You know, Elderberry Airborne. Mm-hmm. So, okay. I've been seeing a lot of talking about what is happening with remote work. Someone asked me about 3 weeks ago, I want to say, if I feel like remote work is here to stay. And the question is a good question, because a lot of people are concerned with, I think it's called Doge. And I have some clips that I'm going to play for us so that we can all be on the same page. But Elon Musk, he's got some sort of initiative going on. And he's been on record saying for a while that he really doesn't like remote work. And a lot of this is sort of geared towards federal employees. I do want to add that caveat. But then people are also expanding the conversation to, well, if you're not a federal employee, what does that mean? You know, when you have someone as influential as Elon Musk talking about, you know, remote work. And I have my 2 cents on it, but I wanted us to just watch a couple of clips just to sort of get on the same page about what is being said. So I'm going to share those clips right now. So give me just a second, and I'm going to share my screen. I have I have like 3 clips that we can take a look at, and we'll like talk and stuff. So let me share my screen. Give me a second. All right. I think this is the one. Present. Okay, I think we should be able to see the screen. Let's see, where am I going to be at? Am I going to be right here? Nope. Yeah, I think I like this one better. Okay, so let me play it, and let me know in the chat if y'all can hear once I start playing it.
Further way in, let's bring in reporting fellow for the Daily Signal, Elizabeth Mitchell. Elizabeth, thanks for joining us on Thanksgiving. Let me ask you this. It sounds great in concept.
Can y'all hear the man?
I mean, every one of us knows that there is
too
much waste in the government. How do you think this will play out? Because it's not really a government agency. They don't really have any power to do anything. But a lot of people are going to be interested in what they come up with, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating idea to slash the debt, get rid of unnecessary federal employees. One really interesting thing I saw with this is they're thinking about getting rid of work from home days for federal employees. So they all would have to come into the office, no more sitting on the couch, maybe playing solitaire during the workday on the taxpayer dime. Federal employees are going to have to come in to the office. They're going to have to do their jobs that the taxpayers are paying for them to do. And it's interesting, like you just showed, that this really is something that people can get behind on a bipartisan basis, that no one wants their taxpayer dollars going to waste.
Yeah, other than the commute being worse for all of us that live in this area, the concept there also is there are going to be a number of people say, no, I don't want to go 5 days a week. And so some of those will self-deport. I mean, they will decide, yeah, I don't want to work for the government anymore, right?
Absolutely. That was actually something that they were saying, is that if people aren't willing to come in 5 days, then they need to find other jobs, that the taxpayers are holding them accountable, expecting them to do their jobs to the best of their ability. And if they're not willing to really take that seriously and come into the office, then they can find other jobs. So they're not just cutting jobs that are unnecessary, but they're kind of doing a bit of a self, like you said, deportation, where if you don't want to work in person, you can find another job, and they'll find people who are willing to come in and do their jobs as the taxpayers are expecting them to do.
Yeah. Do you have a feel for the public support of doing something like getting rid of Department of Education? I mean, everybody would support getting rid of the IRS. That's not really going to happen. But there are many places that people are like, yeah, we've tried that. It's not working. And I think they also need to clarify. There are certain programs, for instance, in the education department to help those perhaps that don't have the money for food, maybe the Head Start program, whatever it might be. There are other ways to distribute those.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right here. I'm just going to pause it right here, and we'll chat about what they said. They started to go into a little bit of something else, but the main thing that I wanted us to all hear is what the talking points are. So I took a couple of notes because I have a tiff. I think that's the word, with a little bit of what was said. So one of the points that was made was the taxpayers. The taxpayers want federal employees to go back into the office, and it's the taxpayers pushing this. Well, who are the taxpayers? The taxpayers are me and y'all. And we understand what it is to be a taxpayer. We're regular people just trying to make an honest living. If you can do your job from home and you're getting stuff done, and there's no issue with national security or issue with your productivity, you're actually getting things done. Me as a taxpayer, I don't care if you do your job from home or in the office. And in fact, I always tell my husband, nobody ever contacts me for these polls that they run on the news. I've never been asked for my opinion. When they say, well, we polled these people and this is what these people are saying, nobody ever asked me. They don't want to ask me, because if you ask me, I'm going to tell you the whole thing, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I don't really care, because I know people are just trying to make an honest living, and they're trying to juggle all the things. They've got kids, they've got a house, they've got family, they've got a spouse, they're trying to make a living. And if you ask me, I do not care how you do your job, just do your job, okay? I actually want to ask them, the folks who are dictating what you do with my money, why you keep sending my money to these other places. Because there are roads in Atlanta that have been worked on since forever. And I mean, it's just constant road work. I need that fixed. There's a lot of bridges that are in disrepair. Okay, the infrastructure when it comes to the water systems, okay, fix that. I'd rather send my money to that than over somewhere to another country. No one ever asked the taxpayers about that, but apparently everybody asked the taxpayers about remote work. And apparently the taxpayers said, y'all need to go back to the office. Give me a break, okay? You can tell I have a lot to say about this. The other thing, besides trying to push it on the taxpayers, is they said, you just can't be at home playing solitaire. That lets you know that whoever this woman, the woman who they're using as the spokesperson, I have no clue who this woman is. They always find some random person. What do you mean playing solitaire? And I can't really tell from her background, but it doesn't say I'm in the office doing this interview. She looks like she may be on her couch or something. She might be at the house herself, talking about we can't be at the house, talking about we're playing solitaire at the house. Who is playing solitaire? Are y'all playing solitaire at the house? Give me a break. Okay? Give me a break. So those are two things that that were mentioned. You know, no more work from home days, go back to the office 5 days a week. It's what the taxpayers, which are people like me and you, want. That's not true because nobody asked me. I don't care how you do your job, just get it done. And then the fact that they think remote workers are at the house playing solitaire. The truth about remote workers is remote workers are working hard and the lines are blurred because you are at the house. You're not in the office, you're at the house, and your house is the office along with where you work and live. So the lines are actually more blurred. People are actually doing a lot of work at home. And the trade-off is you don't have to hit that highway to go into the office. Let's talk about that, lady, whatever your name is. Excuse me, y'all. I need to mute myself. But yeah, that's the first thing. So let me see what y'all are saying in the chat before we watch some other clips. Because y'all heard me sound off. I need to hear y'all sound off. Or maybe you agree with her. I don't know. You know, we're allowed to have our own opinions. Let me go back up. So you said, I think work from home is going to stay. Doge is going after the federal money waste. That's what they're supposed to be doing, they say. Devin says, Elon knows that if he can require Fed workers to come back in office, other private or large public entities, Amazon, Google, etc., will follow suit. It is framed around people being more productive. You hit the nail on the head, okay? You hit the nail on the head, okay? And then you continue on to say, but in my opinion, it really is about the corporate leases. Companies are losing money on hand over fist. Studies have shown people work more remotely than the office. Yes, people, like I said, those lines are blurred when you're at the house, you know, and people are okay with that trade-off because they don't have to leave and go sit in someone's office. So if I'm working a little bit more than I normally would if I went into the office and had a clean cut 9 to 5, hey, the trade-off is I am at the house. I don't have to like leave. I'll give y'all that for the flexibility. A lot of people feel that way. Okay. Let's see. I hope the video is about how much time is wasted in the office surface as well. Well, you know, it's the narrative. They don't want that narrative going forth. You know, the media wants one narrative to go forth. And that's why we will see more coming down the pipeline with this same sort of rhetoric versus the, you know, equal opposite, which is true, that people are productive at home, and being in the office oftentimes is a waste of time. My husband, he telecommutes. So he works at he works at a federal office. I'll say that. And so when he goes into the office 2 days out of the week, he always says, I don't like going into the office. Like, he likes it, but he doesn't like it. And the reason why he doesn't like going into the office is because every time he is in the office, someone is doing something that takes his attention away from work. And he's like, you know, there's some dude in the other cube talking super loud on the phone. And then when they know he's in the office, people come try and find him, and he gets roped into these conversations that just go on. And he's like, you know, I like the switch up of going into the office, you know, a couple days out the week. He also equally likes working from home, but he doesn't appreciate the fact that when he is at home, there aren't people to come and physically be in his face and distract him. There's a lot of water cooler stuff, a lot of, bureaucracy. They have like the holiday parties. I was like, are you going to go to the holiday parties? No, I'm not going to go to the holiday parties, he said. I said, come on, you got to be a team player. But that's the stuff that goes on at the office. It's a lot of horseshoes and white elephant and water cooler talk that goes on in the office. And yes, real work does go on in the office, but there's that social component. And you're going to start seeing more. I think I have a couple of clips pulled where they start talking about that social component, i.e. company culture. So let me not get too ahead of myself. Let's see what else folks are saying. I work for the state, and trust me, there was a lot of waste from the higher pay to the lower. People had a mindset that they could get paid to do nothing. I was raised old school, so I did my job. Amen to that. I agree. All that matters is the work gets done, whether that's at home or in the office. 100%. I'll talk about what happened to my video that I posted yesterday. We're going to talk about that as well. I took it down, but it's going to come back up later. Let's see. My posts are not working. Let's see what else. They are assuming we can't work without an overseer. 1,000%. They're acting like people need to be micromanaged. Someone said, I clocked that too. Ridiculous. And Irma says, speak on it. Thank you. Okay, speak on it. Lisa said, exactly. As long as the job gets done, who cares how it gets done? And the only people losing out is the gas stations, restaurants, anywhere we can spend money. And you guys know the truth is we still got to put gas in the car. Okay, we still got to go to the gas station, so they're getting their coin. Okay, we still got to go, like, we're going to the restaurants. In fact, one of the things about working from home is it is real easy to fall into that slippery slope of let me just go order something or, DoorDash it or go pick me up something for lunch, okay? That's a slippery slope with working from home. So they're not missing out on their money either. They're getting paid too. Mm-hmm. Yes, I-20 Interstate Georgia has been worked on for 20 odd years. What's going on? Okay. What is really going on with these highways? Because I'm like, doggone, I moved here in 2011. And you mean to tell me they are still doing road work on the same strip of road? Give me a break. Yvonne said, office manager, commercial lines and personal lines insurance, and I'm a hybrid, but last 3 months been working from home. I'm only employee, not paying on gas. I get no benefits. Okay. They never asked us about, right. They never ask, they never asked my husband. They never asked any of my friends. They never asked any of my family members or myself. Who are these people doing these surveys? Who are these taxpayers they're talking about? Who are these folks? Okay. So I wanted us to start with this clip. Okay. They lied and said the taxpayers, and then they said we're at the house playing solitaire. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's see the next clip. I have another clip here. Let me pull that one up and we'll watch that one as well. Give me just a second. Okay, let me know if y'all can hear this while it plays.
This now, Jessica Kriegel, Chief Strategy Officer of Workforce and Labor at Culture Partners. You can also check out her podcast, Culture Leaders, the masters behind movements. And there's an intersection here, right, of culture and working and different generations' view of what work is and how important it is. I'm sort of stunned that I think I'm saying this, but I think Vivek Ramaswamy is actually underestimating me. Maybe the first time in history he's underestimated something. What, you think 50% of people would quit if you said you had to come back
lady looking
Monday
like
to Friday, 8 hours a day, be in the office?
Y'all see
I
this
think it'll
lady?
be less than 50%, frankly, but I think that they're not only relying on forcing people back into the office to get rid of them. They are going to, by executive action, defund regulations and the enforcement of regulations that they think have been an overreach. And so they're not going to have to fire these people. There's just not going to be any money for them there. And the people who are going to be forced back into the office, if we look at corporate America as a precedent, there is attrition that happens when companies force their employees back to the office. And I think CEOs who have done that have counted on that attrition. The difference here is I think it's maybe even refreshing that they're saying this is our intention and we welcome those people to quit. At least it's transparent, which I think a lot of CEOs aren't.
It's interesting you say that. So you're saying that when CEOs say you have to come back to the office, they're playing hide the ball, that this is a way to weed out employees.
Absolutely, because the idea that the reason they would force people back into the office is for, quote, culture is really silly. Culture doesn't happen in the four walls of your office. Culture is how people think and act to get results. And I can think and act to get results and be highly productive in a virtual environment if I'm being measured on outcomes and there is an accountable culture and accountable management. In a bureaucracy, there's less accountability, right? Because there's less competition, there's less consequences for failure. And so accountability goes down. And as a result, the way that people think and act isn't necessarily for results. And that's what they're trying to address.
It's a fascinating way of looking at it. DC has some of the top remote work in the country. No surprise. Cary, North Carolina, 41%. Frisco, Texas, 40%. Bellevue, Washington, I guess Microsoft, 39%. Washington, D.C., 34%. There's this argument, right, that people are happier when they work from home because they don't have to sit in traffic. They're more productive because they're happier, on and on and on. To me, it seems more like a generational thing, that somehow Gen Z especially views work as optional or somehow like something they don't really care as much. Therefore, working from home and having those perks are more important almost than having a job.
I mean, you're not alone in believing that. A lot of leaders no, you're not alone, but people believe that young people don't care today, that they just don't want to work anymore. That's not necessarily the case. A lot of the time, it's a failing of leadership to paint the vision, to get them motivated, to hold them accountable. It's hard to be a leader, and most leaders don't know how to do that effectively. I actually have a TED Talk on this. It's called How to Get People to Give a Hoot, although it's a different word than hoot. So look that up if you want more information on how to figure that out.
Our buddy Bill O'Reilly would call it How to Give a Deuce, would be his.
There you go.
would be his way. Hey, this was a great conversation. Thank you for hanging out with us on a Friday night. We'll talk soon. Thanks for watching.
Y'all, I zoned out for like most of that conversation because let me go back to the beginning here. Okay, this woman is live, but I don't know. Something is weird about her movement. I'm going to start this over again, and I'll pause it.
And Labor and Culture Partners.
She's supposed to be live right here.
Culture Leaders, the masters behind movements. And there's an intersection here, right, of culture and working and different generations' view of what work is and how important it is.
There's a blink.
I'm sort of stunned that I think I'm saying this, but I think Vivek Ramaswamy.
Okay, there we go. There's some sort of emotion. That was weird. That threw me off a little bit. I have to be honest. Like, are we looking at one of those Elon Musk robots? I'm not trying to be shady. You know, we're talking about Elon. The truth is stranger than fiction. Okay, call me a tinfoiler, whatever you want to call me. I don't care. I've gotten past all that. I question stuff. She was just blink if you're okay. So they talked about a couple of things there. She might be AI. I don't know. Like, seriously, she didn't blink for an extended period of time. And I was like, is she live? Is this a picture? But I digress. So anyway, you know, she talked about Gen Z and she was like, oh, I have a TED Talk and it's not so much that they don't want to work and yada, yada, yada. To be perfectly honest, I kind of zoned out, like I said. That threw me for a loop. But what I was zoned in for, you know, besides that weirdness, it's talking about the federal employees. So this whole conversation started off with talking about federal employees. The thing that's supposed to be at stake are the federal employees' ability to work remotely. But just like that previous commenter said, it starts with the federal employees, then the major companies like the Googles and the Amazons and whomevers, they, want to follow suit. And then these, smaller private companies, monkey see, monkey do. Okay, so when we're talking about this conversation, yes, the frame is supposed to be about federal employees, but because this conversation is going to extend beyond federal employees, that's just how it works. And that's how it's already been going. We can think about this as not just, applying to federal employees. Now, here's my 2 cents. And actually, I'm going to check with y'all on your 2 cents before I give my 2 cents. So let me go back up here. Let me see what y'all are saying. Okay, so I wasn't the only one who noticed that. Okay, I'm not tripping here. She's moving slightly. She says she's buzzed. She was moving ever so slightly, but like, come on, blink a little bit. Someone said, here we go. Pitch the generations against each other. Lazy people come in all ages, shapes, and sizes. If that was the case, then nothing would get done. This is why I don't watch the news. 100% agree. 100% agree. And I notice stuff on social media. Like, I don't need someone to do a survey for me to notice with my own 2 eyes and ears, like what I'm seeing and hearing. And I think that's really important. I feel like with the way, the smarty pants of the world are and what they tell us is if it's not data, then we can't accept it. If it's not hard, fast numbers, then, it's just not true. We're the smarty pants of the world. But I'm like, there's something to be said for things that you actually observe too. There's something to be said about that. And I've noticed on social media that there's like this weird thing with like the generations, talking trash about each other. Like I'll notice on Instagram in the comment section, people talking about boomers. And it just seems like the general consensus is we hate boomers, millennials and Gen Z and everyone else, they just can't stand boomers. That's not true for me. Like I can definitely learn from older generations, and I think we should. I don't immediately condemn Gen Z just because they're younger and have a different approach to things. And then as a millennial, I don't think I'm the greatest thing, walking and talking, because like you said, the commenter said, there's issues with all generations. All generations have their own issues. There are lazy people in every generation. 100% agree. Someone said, how can they force you to stop working from home and go back to the office if the company you work for does not have a brick and mortar? This was very dumb for Elon to say. Yeah, if there's no brick and mortar. And see, here's the thing, y'all. The conversation that is being had now, and I have the receipts, okay? I was talking about this in April of 2020. So I know a lot of stuff has happened since then. Like it's been almost 5 years since, all the go home stuff happened. But remember, everyone had that go home mandate end of March of 2020. So like COVID and all that stuff was a brewing overseas in 2019. And then I remember I was watching this one lady's live stream. I don't watch her channel anymore, and I'm not going to say who it was. But I was watching this lady's live stream, and she was like, I broke COVID. I broke COVID. Like she broke the news about it, allegedly. Because she was saying like, I have subscribers over in China and, they're reporting what's going on and, people are leaving in body bags and stuff like that. And so I remember watching this at the beginning of January of 2020. And then I kept hearing stuff about it. And then by March of 2020, like, everyone had that go home mandate. It was like the end of March. So I'm going to show y'all in a little bit a clip of me when I went live of April 2020 April 2020, saying all these things that people are talking about right now as if it was brand new. You know, the thing that the commenter just said about, you know, how are you going to go to an office if there is no brick and mortar? There are companies that are remote, they're 100% remote. And there are companies that have a brick and mortar. Like that's how they were structured. That's, you know, how they, you know, started their business, and they still had, you know, those buildings, even though people had to go home. And part of what I was doing during that time was a lot of companies, they needed help pivoting to remote work. So like I was super busy during that time with these companies, you know, helping them with their remote outreach because everyone had to pivot. And there were jobs that specifically stated they were not going to be remote forever. So part of, you know, having a real conversation is understanding all aspects of the conversation. Yes, there are companies that are requiring people to go back into the office that aren't federal, that have nothing to do with Doge and Elon's efforts and whatnot, but they're being caught up in the crossfire of this because it looks like a duck quacks like a duck. They're going back into the office, and, you know, at the same time, Elon's, you know, pushing for people to go back into the office. The real picture of it was these jobs were never going to stay remote in the first place. Like, for example, one company that, you know, we all know about, T-Tech, for example. T-Tech has brick and mortar offices. During that time when a lot of companies had to pivot and go remote, they already had remote opportunities, but some of their opportunities that were brick and mortar, they went remote. And on the job lead, it said, you have to be comfortable with going into the office when all of these mandates are over. Lots of job leads said that. And I look at job leads every single day, okay? And I have for years, even before COVID. So that's why perspective also matters when having these conversations, because it looks like, oh no, remote work is going away and, you know, all these jobs are disappearing. These jobs were some of these jobs were temporarily remote. Okay, some of these were temporarily remote. Actually, before I continue with the comments, since we're talking about it, let me show y'all, okay, in the live chat that I did, where I actually say just that. Give me just a second. I will show that, and we will look at some more of y'all's comments. So hold your thoughts for just a second, because I'm not looking at the comments right now. I just want to point out that this was a conversation that was already being had 2020. Okay, this is a young Delilah. Okay, 2020, didn't have any kids yet. Okay, April 24th, 2020. And I think the time clip that I have is 25 minutes, 15 seconds. So let me go back, and I'll just start a little bit before then.
Yep. But, you know, there's a lot of companies who I don't think it's going to be that easy for them. And I'm always looking at the leads and stuff. And it's surprising to me, even with everything that's going on in the job leads, a lot of companies will say remote to start, but then we're going to go back to the office. And my thought process is, if you can
pause right there. I said it, remote to start, but then we're going to go back to the office. So I like to have conversations where like all angles are attacked. Like, yes, I have my own grievances with jobs that could stay remote, that aren't 100% remote forever. But if we're going to have a real conversation, we got to talk about all the angles and positions of it. They were never going to stay remote to begin with. Remote work was already a thing before the pandemic. It's just a lot of jobs had to become remote at the time. So if you were working in an office and your job went remote, okay, and it was during the pandemic time, it's not 100% genuine to be like, oh no, I have to go back to the office. You never signed up for a remote job. Your job just became remote. But for the people who did sign up to be remote workers, if your office or manager is saying you need to go into the office, that's a different conversation. And, you know, some of these positions never said that they were going to eventually end up in the office. So that's where, you know, I feel like, hey, there's some bait and switch going on. Let me see what y'all are saying in the comment section. Let's see. So continuing on with what y'all were saying, I agree. I never get any of those pulls. I'm a taxpayer and I'm a working person. I'm the only employee I have to pay for my own health insurance, my own dental, my own vision. I don't want to go back in. Okay. Taking away work from home will have a domino effect for some. Childcare is already unaffordable. Reduced workforce, especially for moms. Pay isn't up to par with cost of living. Jobs moving offshore and so much. Tell me about it, okay? Childcare is very expensive. And if you live in the city like I do, they are going to tax you, okay? They are going to nickel and dime you. We lived in the sticks for like 2 years, and we moved this past summer back to the city. I couldn't deal with being in the sticks anymore. I'm a city girl, y'all. Okay. Not that kind of city girl. I just need to be where there's civilization. I don't like traveling 30 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store. Couldn't do it. And the daycare costs are so different in the city. Like what I thought was expensive, I would love to pay. I would love to pay that again for childcare. I work from home customer service. The type of work I do, there is no need to be in office. I used to drive 40 minutes to sit in an office by myself because everyone else was in another state or country. Yeah, these are the types of jobs where they should, stay remote. Gas prices are crazy because we have more drivers in California than any other state. I feel for you if you live in California. My thoughts and prayers are with you for the folks in California. Any other state driving cars, and even with working from home, I'm still barely making ends meet. It is tough out here, y'all. Like, we don't need these extra costs. Cannot tell you how many times I've given your info to those seeking jobs, even when I was a recruiter. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much for sharing this information. You guys, I don't, yank y'all's chains. I really do spend time researching, giving you guys, information that is easily verifiable. Okay, I understand that we all have stuff going on. We're all super duper busy. So that's why I do what I do. Okay, so I appreciate y'all who understand that, I'm not out here just posting any old thing. Okay. Let's see what else. My company is all over the place in another country. I'm the only one living in my state. Wow. And yeah, there's a lot of countries that outsource jobs, work from home jobs. And I told y'all about this back in, I want to say it was February of 2023. Last year, there was an uptick in data entry jobs like I hadn't seen. And so just to give y'all some context, I started sharing jobs back in 2017, and I started on Facebook. Okay. So Facebook really wasn't a friendly platform for sharing jobs at that time. Facebook did not like it when people had pages and they weren't paying to boost their posts. So then I said, let me go over to YouTube and start sharing, jobs over there. So I was on Facebook before anything. And that page got, shut down, deleted. I don't know what it is, but Facebook really does not like you sending people to any other place. You have to stay on Facebook. So anyway, I started working from home in 2016 and I started sharing jobs in 2017. And then, I took my talents to YouTube in 2017 as well. So in 2017, I was on Facebook, and then the other part I started on YouTube. And so I have a pretty good understanding of what the landscape of work from home jobs looked like pre-pandemic, during, the height of the pandemic. And then now that a lot of those mandates have left. And I said this back in that same, era of that video that I just showed y'all. A lot of what was happening with these companies going to remote was what I imagined would have taken about 5 years to happen with remote work, if there was never any sort of pandemic type thing that was making people have to, take their talents to the house. So all of the stuff that, is going on with, Doge and, even the companies that had the back to office mandates that have already happened, Like there's a lot of companies that have already gone back to the office because the last of the federal COVID mandates ended, I want to say last year in May sometime. Correct me if I'm wrong. Biden said, hey, it's officially not a pandemic anymore or something like that. So, before I lose my train of thought here, what is taking place, in my humble opinion, is just stuff sort of correcting itself. There were already a lot of remote jobs before the pandemic. I was sharing daily content before the pandemic. Pandemic hits, boom, even more jobs. And then, post-pandemic times, which I guess is the category we're in now, yes, there are still lots of jobs, but also true is there aren't as many of those jobs because those jobs converted to work from home. But they were never going to stay work from home. So, I'm not trying to be the eternal optimist that I actually am, but to, sort of give you guys my answer to the question, like, is remote work here to stay? Absolutely. Because I was working from home in 2016. Okay. That was 9 years ago. Okay. I was working from home, and it was, 8 years ago that I started sharing lots of work from home jobs that were hiring. Like, this isn't a new thing. I just think sometimes when major events happen, I don't know if it's just like revisionist history or what, we tend to, sort of start our memories at a certain point in time when, like, no, this has been a thing. It's been a thing. Now, are people going to sneeze and get a work from home job like they may have been able to do during the height of everything? No. Okay. No, you're not going to be able to sneeze and just get a job. What does that mean for people who want to work from home, though, but there aren't as many jobs and it's not as easy? It means you're going to have to up level your skills. Okay, it means you're going to have to know what you know, and you know that you know it. Okay, it means that you're not going into remote work not understanding, the playing field. You're going to need to understand, where to find these jobs, how to apply for these jobs, how to really customize your resume and cover letter, how to interview and secure that job. Okay, you're going to need to know those skills that are going to ultimately land you opportunities. And a lot of people don't know what it is that they did that helped them get hired. So many people kind of just think like, well, they needed somebody and I was just sort of like the best person at the time. They can't really pinpoint what it was that they did that sealed the deal for them to get hired. And, that's very important. Every single day when you get on social media, watch your get ready with me's and the tutorials and whatever y'all like to watch on the internet, but also take just a little bit of time to fine tune a skill that you have, that is important, take time just to read, up on your industries so you stay abreast of what's going on, the twists and turns that are happening. It's so important that, everyone who has a job, everyone who works for a living, that's pretty much all of us, me included, what is going on in the world and you're staying on top of skills. Gone are the days where you can go to school one good time 10, 15 years ago and never need to learn another thing. We have to stay on top of it. And sometimes that means, going back to school. Like, we don't like to talk about that. Sometimes you might find that whatever you're doing right now, just it's not working out and the trajectory isn't going to work out. So you might have to go back to school. You might have to switch industries. You might have to up level your skills, get a new certification or something. That's part of where we're at these days. And no one likes it, but that's just what it is, y'all. Let me see what y'all are saying in the comments. You work in the tech industry and they're laying off. Scary. Do you know what positions are getting laid off? how do we prepare unskill in advance if jobs issue a RTO mandate? I guess the question is, how do you prepare if a job issues a return to office mandate? Well, I can't tell anybody what to do. So with this conversation, let's move it along here. So let's pretend like you're in a job that has a return to office mandate. What should you do in that situation? Well, what I would do personally is I would evaluate, number one, if I did not follow this company's orders to return to office, that would likely mean I get fired. Am I okay with that? Number one, okay? And if you're okay with getting fired and having to get a new job, are you okay with having to go on the job hunt at this current time with, the way your family's set up and your financials? If the answer to that is yes, then, hey, you might want to try standing your ground because you are prepared to, go back on the job hunt and you're cool with that. Now, if you're someone who's like, no, I'm not prepared to go back on the job hunt right now. I got some stuff going on with my life that really just requires me to stay gainfully employed. If that's the case, then, do what you got to do. You can go back to the office and still search for jobs at the same time. And, you might just say, you know what? I don't even want to search for jobs. I'll just go back to the office. They can have it. Like, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just giving you guys ways to think about it, because ultimately everybody is in a different situation when it comes to their family and finances. So I'm never going to tell someone, oh no, you need to stay working from home, because I'm a work from home advocate and I'm in HR and I love work from home and that's what you need. I'm not going to tell you that, okay? Because I don't pay your bills. Nobody here pays anybody's bills. So I'm never going to tell somebody do something that's going to put them in a bad situation. And here's the other thing too. With a lot of advice, I'm sure everybody has heard the advice of, switch jobs every 1 to 2 years. That way you can make more money. If you just switch jobs every 1 to 2 years, then you're going to get a pay raise higher than if you were to stay at the same company. Let me tell y'all, that might work for some industries and that might work for some seasons, but it's very foolish to take advice that on the surface it sounds good and it's worked for someone and apply it in every industry at every single time, all the time. Because there are some times that those real good tidbits of advice just do not apply. I told y'all this in a live some time ago, earlier this year. If you are gainfully employed, okay, if you have a job and it's paying the bills and, there are more things that you like about it than not. No one's saying don't look for a new job, but don't be so quick to quit your job. Because at the time, I was really heavily watching the numbers, the reports that were coming out every month of all the new jobs that had been created and what was being reported. And I'm like, there's a discrepancy here, because all the numbers that people are, or that the government is reporting for new jobs, every following month, they correct that quietly. So, for example, they may have said there are 500,000 new jobs that have been created this month alone. And that's what gets reported. But then the following month, when they correct those numbers, it's really something like, oh, our bad. It was like 200,000 jobs that were created. And they never reported the correction. So I'm like, you probably just need to keep your job if you like more stuff about it than not. Because now is not the time where you can effortlessly job hop. And then, as the year went on, we started hearing more stuff about layoffs, more stuff about, tech companies, all this AI that's supposed to be replacing, certain jobs. And part of that labor, what was it? It was a strike with the linemen, not the linemen, the shoremen. Remember that in like October, It didn't last a long time, but one of the things that they had a gripe about was y'all aren't getting ready to bring in all this mechanized this and that and cheat us out of a job. So y'all are going to have to negotiate with us because y'all ain't about to bring in all this tech to take our jobs. That was part of what that conversation was about. So, don't just blindly take good advice. That's why I'm not telling anybody if you have a return to office mandate what to do. You can always look for a job. Okay. You can be gainfully employed and look for a job. You can be unemployed and look for a job. But one thing we know for a fact is when those bills come, if there's no money to pay them, you have a creek. So I'm never going to tell anybody, leave your job. And I also am never going to tell somebody one size fits all information. For some people, jumping around from job to job might work for you. But like, even in good times, like job security is never promised. So like, if you have a house and you got kids and you got, the mortgage and the daycare bills and the health insurance and stuff, it might just be smarter for you to stay where you're at versus all this hopping around stuff. Like, you have to weigh the risk and the reward. Yeah, they say what sounds good. Let's just make up a number, why don't we? And then we're going to report that, and then we're going to say, oh, our bad. But we won't report on the our bad part. Yeah, so is remote work here to stay? Yes, it 100% is. But it is going to take being the best at what you do. Like, mediocrity is no longer part of the conversation. Like, it should have never been part of the conversation. But I think sometimes we want to do the least and get the most. I get it. But, sometimes we have to do the most to get the most. That's just how it works. What do y'all think? Do you guys think remote work is in jeopardy, or you think it's here to stay? Sometimes need Excel help, and there are YouTubers that do tutorials. That's interesting you say that, because I was just watching a bunch of Excel videos and I'm like, I might want to start a separate channel doing Excel tutorials, because, that's something I could absolutely do. It's interesting you say that. So it's a thing. It's definitely getting harder to find, but it's not going away completely. It's here to stay. I think it's here to stay, but you need to have skills to set you apart. Here to stay, it saves money. Here to stay, I was working home way before it was popular. Yes, that's my whole point. Like, it is here to stay. It's been here. It's not going to go anywhere. I have 2 degrees and a master. Please help me. You got plenty of leverage. You got plenty of leverage. The silent quitting is out the door. and you know what else gets me, y'all? All these little, I call it the TikTokification of stuff. For whatever reason, it seems like stuff gets a rebrand once folks on TikTok get a hold of it. Because I remember when, everybody was talking about quiet quitting. Woo, quiet quit. Y'all remember that whole quiet quitting thing? Let me know in the chat box if y'all remember. It was maybe like a year or so ago. I don't know. But remember when everyone's just talking about quiet quitting? Okay, so y'all remember about the quiet quitting thing. I'm like, what is this new thing that everybody is talking about? And then come to find out, quiet quitting is just doing your job and, nothing extra. Why are we calling that quiet quitting? Like, I was thinking it was like, oh, I'm trying to find out how long it takes for this company to figure out I'm not doing any work. No, that's not what quiet quitting was. It was just doing your job and nothing extra. Really, instead of calling it something cute like that, let's have a real conversation about something called wage theft. Okay? Because if you are someone who is hourly, okay, and you're supposed to be working on the clock when you're getting paid, but then you're not on the clock and the company is expecting you to do stuff, that's called wage theft. Okay. And then also, if maybe you are a salaried employee and, you know, there's really no distinction between when you're supposed to be working and when you're not supposed to be working, that's called terrible company culture. But that doesn't sound good. Okay. That doesn't sound good. So we're going to TikTokify it and call it quiet quitting. That's what we're going to do now. Then it was coffee surfacing when you show up at the office so people can see you, then you go back home for the rest of the day. Yes, that was another one. I heard that name and I heard it called coffee badging. I said, what is that? And when I looked into it, I'm like, okay, so people are going in, they're showing their face, and then they are going home. Well, I remember back in 2015, there was this guy who I worked with, and we all traveled for our jobs. So like we'd be in the office at least 1 week a month. And then on Mondays, if we weren't already out to a different state, like we'd go into the office. And I remember during my weeks in the office, the guy who I'm talking about, he also would have his week in the office. And he would be in there. He'd do his little whatever, print off some stuff and be like, yeah, I'm just going to go home and finish working. Now, that was not part of the job description. And I even remember one of my coworkers saying, I didn't know we could do that. And I'm like, I'm new here, so I'm not even going to rock the boat. Okay. Coffee badging, coffee surfacing, or whatever they're calling it. It's been a thing. There are people who go into the office, show their face, and then they say, I'm going home and working from home. It's been a thing. But if we let TikTok tell it, it's a brand new thing. I actually heard the opposite. I heard, there's a lot of stuff going on around. I heard that he wanted to incentivize overtime. That's just what I personally heard. Someone said, ironically, at my last job, a coworker was stealing time, hiding in the restroom or in his car, and got a promotion because his sales numbers were still good. I stayed on the floor with customers and still. Yeah, it's crazy. People getting promotions doing the least. I remember back when I worked at Sears, one of the managers, because I would go into Sears after I got done with class. So I'd go in for the night shift after I left campus. Like I go home. Sometimes I even have to like bring my work clothes with me and head to Sears Cumberland, which does not exist anymore. It's now Dick's Sporting Good, but that's where I worked. If you're in Atlanta, you know about Sears Cumberland if you're an OG. So anyway, I remember I would go in for my shift and one of my managers, I won't say his name in case, he might be watching, but he'll know who he is. I'd see him when I clocked in and I didn't see that man no more until it was time to leave. Okay. It'd be like 4 or 5 hours and I would not see this man. I would joke that this dude was hiding in the closet because I'm like, where is this guy? Like, I don't see this man ever after I clock in. And he was getting paid and he was one of the managers. He didn't do anything at all. And his eyes were always bloodshot. So I had questions. Now, y'all, I do need to give you guys a shameless plug because while we're on the topic of talking about work from home, and is work from home here to stay, and up leveling our skills and all of the good things. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a shameless plug. I'm going to share my screen because the One Application Away Challenge is happening starting next Monday. And this is actually our second cohort. So if y'all are watchers of the channel, I did the first One Application Away Challenge back in May. And if anyone who was in the challenge back in May is on here, let the folks know that it was really a, just wonderful experience. And I'm not just saying that because it's me. Okay, I'll tell the truth. If it wasn't good, I wouldn't even come back. But if it's true, let them know in the chat box. Okay, now during the One Application Away Challenge, the things that help people actually get hired is what we are focusing on. So it's broken down into 4 weeks. All right, what we're doing during those 4 weeks is a mix of live sessions and a mix of done on your own coursework that we get together and we talk about. So, this is explaining everything in the challenge, but let me jump ahead here so that you can see exactly what we're going to be doing in the challenge here. Okay. So we're going to talk about how to write a strong resume and cover letter. And I'll come back to that. I'm going to put a pin in that. Okay. We're also going to talk about customizing your resume and cover letter for specific roles. We'll talk about how to correct common job search mistakes. So if you find yourself always in a job that you personally are not super excited about, that starts all the way back when you start looking for a job. We're going to talk about pro strategies for getting in more applications because we're all grown and we're all very busy, and there are ways to not cut corners but still maximize our efforts. Also, how to identify and avoid online job scams. This is something that I can talk about forever and ever and ever, and it still would not be enough because things are getting more sophisticated and things are getting more weird. Okay, I don't want to talk about JMac lending, but you guys know if you know. And then also where to find the best online jobs. We're going to talk about interview training and readiness. And this is actually one of my most favorite things that we did in the challenge because we are practicing interviews, and we even did one-on-one mock interviews with me. And, it was eye-opening for everyone who did the mock interviews because it's like, oh, wait, I did not answer that question, or I went blank. We also talk about work from home tech, how to make sure you're set up for success. And then we also talk about leveraging LinkedIn, which is an area that a lot of people don't really utilize, but can be very, very helpful. So the challenge starts on Monday. And right now, the early bird special is still going on. You're going to get a workbook. We're going to have after-hours support in case, there's an update with whatever you're doing that we're, working on. And also, you're going to get free 30-day trial to Extra Leads Club. So you're not even going to have to worry about the piece of looking for jobs. And of course, we have the live hour-and-a-half sessions. So it's going to be off YouTube, me and everyone in the challenge, and we're actually going to be able to talk on camera. It's on Zoom. We're going to talk about the things that are challenging us, what we need to do, ways that we can work through it. And it's just a really awesome classroom environment. And it is going for $97 right now with the coupon. Well, actually, the coupon's already applied. So when I did this challenge, one of the things that I got feedback for was I should actually charge more. But I can't do that if you're looking for a job. But I also cannot undercut myself because it does take a significant amount of time to manage the amount of people who have individual questions, and I am helping them individually as well as in the group setting. So if you have not joined, please consider joining the One Application Away Challenge. This is going to help you be confident with whenever you need to look for a job and get hired. And one thing that I know for a fact is a lot of people have never taken any sort of specific job training. So it's not enough to just put your application out there. With everything you do, there is a strategy. And I don't give fluff. I only deliver tangible, actionable things. So if you even like some of my content, you're going to love the courses. And this is, again, live. It's done together. So we're going to be on a Zoom call every single Monday during the month of January. And I would be so happy if you guys joined. The link is in the description box below. So that's my shameless plug, y'all. Okay. And if you can't join the challenge, don't feel bad. It's tough out here for everyone. I can't give this information away for free because I got to keep my lights on too. And it's not cheap having a Teachable school or any of the technology that it takes to do these, group coaching things. It costs money to be online. It costs money no matter what you're doing. So, for the people who are like, why can't we do this for free? Well, if someone's going to pay my bills, then yeah, we can do it for free. But if I'm taking time away from my family, I have to put some charge on there. It's not free to run any of these things. Like my website is not free. That's why there are ads on there just to make it free. Everything costs money. So I did this as cheaply and economically as I could without cutting any corners. And like I said, you're going to get so much out of the challenge. So everybody's telling you, go work out, sign up for my workout challenge, sign up for a gym membership. If you are looking to make sure that remote work is always a viable option for you, then, consider joining the challenge. And, that's my shameless plug. So yeah, tomorrow's 2025, y'all. 2025 is upon us. Does anyone have any New Year's plans? Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate your appreciation. I appreciate you. I don't have any New Year's plans myself. When you got two littles, the New Year's plans are to stay at home or to go to church. But this year, we're just going to stay at home. So in the past, I've actually never gone to like a New Year's party. I used to always just bring in New Year's at church, and then like we'd go to IHOP or something afterwards. This year, we're just going to be at the house. Thank you anyhow. Thank you. Also, one other thing that I want to point out, if you cannot join the challenge, and trust me, I understand. Okay, I totally understand. I'm going to be doing a series of workshops where we're going to focus on one specific topic. So if you did not make the workshop back in October, what was that workshop? How to Find Online Jobs Like a Pro 2.0. That was the workshop that we did. That one was very affordable. I think it was only $27. It was like 2.5 hours. You get the replay, and we're learning very specific skills. So with any of the things that I personally do, because I know a lot of people, they have their own grievances with, learning online. Sometimes people say they're going to teach them something and they don't actually teach them. You can always vet whether, you learned what you're supposed to learn, because I teach you those specific things. So if the challenge does not work for you, I understand, trust me, and there will be other opportunities for us to work together. Another thing that I'm going to make sure that I regularly, it's hard to say that word, have on my calendar are office hours. So if you wanted to ever do anything one-on-one, like a phone call, I did those during the summertime before baby arrived. I'm bringing those back again because I get a lot of questions about Delilah, can I personally talk to you? Or can you look at my resume? Can you do a review for me? So I'm also going to, open the doors for that in January and try and make that something that I always have time for on my calendar. And things are getting a little bit easier to plan ahead with my baby getting just a little bit older. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, y'all. So I think at this point, we've satisfied the answer to the question about, remote work and, is it here to stay? And also, I think going into 2025, it's going to feel more like how things have felt in the past, few months and stuff. But maybe this is the optimism, or maybe this is just me always thinking on the bright side. I think things are going to start, looking up a little bit more. A couple years ago, I remember that whole chip shortage for the cars. Do you guys remember when the news was saying that there's a chip shortage for cars, and that's why they were buying back used cars at such a high amount? Do y'all remember that? This was like maybe 2022. Y'all remember that? Let me know in the chat if y'all remember that. Like car companies were paying a lot to buy back your used car. And I think it was because there was that chip shortage for new cars. So, they were trying to sell used cars. Okay, so folks remember, okay, y'all remember, not just me. Okay, well, I remember at the time, the news was saying, nobody's buying a car right now. No one can buy a car, and it's just too expensive to buy a car. But I also remember at the same time that the news was saying that everybody had one of those temporary tags. And in fact, I was like, there's never been more temporary tags riding around than right now. So somebody ain't telling the truth, because, while that might be true, there may have been a chip shortage. People aren't hurting to buy a car because everybody's riding in something new. Well, I have to tell y'all, for a while, I didn't really see a whole lot of new cars. And, sometimes you can transfer your actual plate, because when I got a car, I was able to transfer my plate. But a lot of folks have like the temporary tags that have the, plate, like the number on there, their tag number. It's just paper. I have not seen the amount of temporary tags like I'm seeing now since that time. So somebody's got some money, because folks are riding around in something brand new. Like every time I get in my car, when I go down the street, I see a ton of brand new cars. And I'm gauging that they're brand new because they have the paper tags. And I'm like, okay, so folks are buying cars right now. Because beforehand, I hadn't seen this amount of like brand new cars, new to them anyhow, used, whatever, it's all new, in a long, long time. So that to me makes me think about how, some of the markers that the economy is sort of starting to get better is when people are open to buying vehicles and houses. And I have a sister-in-law who is a realtor, and she's been selling houses. So things are starting to uptick. And so if I could leave on any note for us to go into 2025, it's not to be hopelessly optimistic, but I do believe that things are getting better economically. And I remember I made the video about recession-proof jobs back in like March, April of 2023. So we know what goes down must go up. What goes up must go down. It's a roller coaster. Times are good, times are bad. Times are good, times are bad. I think with it having been, some type of recession, even though the news never came out and said anything officially, that we are likely on an upward trajectory. That's just my take, but who knows? Just like everybody went into 2020 thinking it was going to be the best ever, and then we know what really happened. I think, it could take a turn for the worse, but I feel like things might actually be getting better. I don't know if y'all feel that way too. See, Lisa says she's looking at a new car right now. And a lot of friends have bought new cars in the last year. Where I live, I see cars being repossessed and not bought. Now, that is true. And the thing is, two things can be true at once. Now, if you are on YouTube, there's a lot of people who make content about what's going on out here. And I've seen like a lot of videos about, oh, cars are getting repossessed. I kind of wonder, like we were talking about with this topic of work from home, what is the other side of that conversation? Why people's cars may be getting repossessed? Because there are people getting their cars repossessed and there are folks riding clean and something brand new. I see it every day, every time I get in my car. Radiant says, yes, I sold my used car that year. I got more than I would have pre-pandemic. Me too. I had a 2018 Nissan Rogue and I almost got what I paid for the thing. And I got my car used. And then when I sold it back in 2022, they gave me almost what I paid for the thing. I said, I'm not gonna complain. This is great. It's not what? It's not getting better. The economy, is that what you're saying? I hope you have a happy and prosperous new year as well, Irma. Thank you. Couldn't the paper tags just be from a dealership giving you a rental while fixing yours? Is that the case? Because I know when I rented a car while living in the city, someone's going to run into your car. I've had plenty of temporary cars while my car was being fixed because someone ran into me. But they had a tag. So I don't know if the temporary tag is a thing. Is that a thing when you are getting a rental? Because I thought they only did the temporary tag when it's a new to you car. That's what I thought. Because every rental I've ever had its own plate. Do you know of any lesser known AI trainer gigs similar to TELUS? I do not like that company. So you'll never hear me talk about them. I don't like that company at all. Like there are companies that I don't like, but y'all like, and I'll talk about them, but I won't even talk about that company. Oh, you said you think it's here to stay. Okay. You said we have a lot of car theft where I live, and paper plates are sometimes an identifier of a stolen car. Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting. It's just going to be harder to find, and you're going to have lots of experience. Gone are the days where you throw a rock and a company needs you, because if you think about what the whole thing with the pandemic was, everybody had to go home. Like you didn't even have time to strategize. You just got to go home. So all these companies that were just operating the day before like they normally would, they got that mandate the same time we got that mandate. And so all these companies had to pivot really fast. And because that was the situation, hey, let's put on the job boards. We got, opportunities at home. Okay. We need to make sure that we have our workforce in place. All right. We're hiring 1,000 at a time. We're hiring 500 at a time. We're willing to train you, blah, blah, blah. I'm from my house. I'm looking out my window. Okay. Someone's backing up. Yeah. So, companies needed the people. They needed the people ASAP. But now, they can go back to being more choosy, come into this office. Or if you're going to work from home, you got to be, really bringing it. And that's why it's so important to have those job skills down pat. Like if you find yourself not getting past a certain point in the job hiring process, that's actually an identifier of what you need to work on. So for some people, they have no problem securing phone interviews, actual virtual interviews, no issue with that. It's just when it comes to actually getting the job offer, crickets. that means you need to get better at interviewing. You know, if you find yourself not even getting to the step where people are reaching out for the next steps, there's something going on with your application, like your resume and your cover letter. That's how you can pinpoint where in the process you need to get better at. Like wherever the process stops for you, that's the place. Oh, so they do give paper tags? I had no clue about that. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that could be it. I always had a car with the actual plates on it when I had a temp car. You'd love to participate in the Excel tutorials. If I do that, you work on the computer a lot, but Excel skills are very low because you don't, I think, like it that much. I would like to be proficient. Awesome. Cool. Did we get the donut from Krispy Kreme? Not yet. So I had already had some Krispy Kreme donuts at the house, but he always wants to go get Krispy Kreme. So we did not go yet, but I told my husband about it, and I did not tell my toddler, because then he'd be like, Krispy Kreme, Krispy Kreme. We've been making cookies every weekend too for Christmas. So I will give him that Krispy Kreme donut. Okay. My husband knows that happened, and I know it too. And we're going to get him the donut. We just haven't done it just yet. We just got done eating the cookies, and you know, he's 3. So he's like bouncing off the walls if he has a cookie. And my husband was like, okay, no more cookies after 5 p.m. So now that Christmas is over, we won't be making cookies every weekend, and we'll go get him that donut next time he gets a sweet treat. Thank you again. Well, we're closing out now, but we talked about, the state of remote work in 2025. The replay will be up as soon as I get off of here. And we were talking about, is remote work here to stay, the return to office mandates. And a lot of the conversation really is centered around federal employees, but we know that stuff sort of seeps into other avenues, other industries, private sector, big companies, small companies. So the replay will be up. And I guess this is a good time for us to sign off, because I got to get going and do some things. So you guys stay safe. I hope you guys have a wonderful, happy new year. I may have a video tomorrow. If not, I'm definitely going to be posting on Thursday. And, oh, one other thing. I did say I was going to talk about why I removed the video from yesterday. It just didn't look like anyone was online. And something about YouTube during like the holiday season, it's hit or miss. Sometimes people are online, sometimes people are not. And that video was a very important video, because that video, let me give some context, okay? So if you did not see me post a video yesterday, good. Okay. But if you did see me post a video yesterday and you're like, where did that video go? That was a video where I was talking about some common misconceptions with work from home. And it's a super important video. So I said, let me take this down and I'm going to repost it later when people are done doing holiday stuff, because I need everyone to watch that. And the way YouTube operates is if no one watches the video in the first couple of minutes, they show it to no one. And I post videos every weekday when it's not the holidays. So I'm like, I do not need this very important video getting buried under all my other content. I'm going to just wait to post it later. So the video is going to be back on my channel, maybe like next week or something. But I need everybody to watch that video about, the 5 work from home myths, because that's going to keep a lot of folks from getting scammed. And it's also going to help you set your expectations when you are looking for jobs, because there are just some jobs that do not exist. And the amount of people who ask me about jobs that just don't exist made me make that video. Okay, y'all. So happy New Year. Yay. I'll see you guys very, very, very soon. Stay safe, stay blessed, And I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.